She texted, "I'm pregnant, but I'm telling my rich ex it's his. We deserve his child support." I replied, "A clever plan." Then I called her ex, congratulated him, and emailed him the paternity test results and the voicemail where she admitted her plan. The call I got from his lawyer. "So this happened about 6 months ago, but the legal dust is finally settling, which means I can post about it. This is a throwaway for obvious reasons, and some details have been changed to protect the guilty, me, and the innocent, everyone except my ex." I-33M was dating Becca, 29F, for about 9 months. We met through a mutual friend at a rock climbing gym. I was the guy who kept falling off the beginner wall, and she was the instructor who found it adorably pathetic, her words. Our relationship moved quickly. Maybe too quickly, looking back. We were living together after 3 months, talking about long-term plans by month 6. I'm a paralegal at a law firm specializing in family law, which will be relevant later. I make decent money, but I'm not wealthy by any stretch. Becca worked as a fitness instructor at several high-end gyms and made about the same as me. We split rent on our apartment in Seattle, Washington, shared expenses, and generally had what I thought was a healthy, equal partnership. One major red flag I ignored was how often Becca talked about her ex, Devin. Devin is some tech executive who apparently makes obscene money, like multiple vacation homes and a private jet money. They dated for 2 years before breaking up about a year before I met her. According to Becca, Devin dumped her because he couldn't handle a strong woman with her own ambitions. I never met the guy, but based on her stories, I pictured a soulless corporate Chad who expected women to be decorative accessories. The problem was, Becca never stopped following Devin on social media. She'd constantly make little comments about his posts, his new car, his trips to Bali or Monaco, the charity galas he attended with whatever vapid model was currently on his arm. She played it off as mockery, but there was always something wistful about it. I should have recognized that for the blinking red warning sign it was, but hey, we all have our blind spots. About 8 months into our relationship, Becca started acting strange. Moody, secretive with her phone, taking calls in another room. Classic cheating behavior, right? I'm ashamed to say I snooped. One night while she was in the shower, I checked her phone. I know, not my proudest moment. I'd noticed she used the same password for everything. Her birth year followed by her initials, so accessing her phone wasn't difficult. There weren't any suspicious texts from other guys, but I did find something unexpected. A calendar app with ovulation tracking and a note that read, 12 days late. While I had her phone unlocked, I also noticed she had Devin's number saved under Do Not Answer, Devin. I quickly wrote it down, thinking it might be useful information, then made sure to close all apps and return her phone exactly as I'd found it. When she got out of the shower, I confessed to snooping, which led to a massive fight, but then asked if she was pregnant. The fight immediately stopped, and she burst into tears. Yes, she was pregnant. She'd taken 3 tests, all positive. She'd been trying to figure out how to tell me. I was stunned. We'd always used protection, but I know nothing's 100% effective. After the shock wore off, I actually felt excited, scared, but excited. I told her we'd figure it out together, that I was in this with her. She seemed relieved, and we spent the night talking about how this changed our plans, what we'd need to do, etc. The next day, I came home from work early, planning to surprise her with takeout from her favorite Thai place and maybe some non-alcoholic champagne to celebrate. As I walked in, I heard her on the phone in our bedroom. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but our apartment was small and she was speaking loudly. The timing works perfectly. He'll never know. No, I haven't told him yet. I know Devin's loaded, and this is our chance to be set for life. Yes, child support in Washington is based on income, and his is massive. Who cares if it's not his? The baby deserves that kind of life, and so do I after the way he dumped me. I stood there, frozen, takeout bags getting heavy in my hands, as my girlfriend cheerfully detailed her plan to pass our baby off as her wealthy ex's, all to secure hefty child support payments. She laughed about how Devin would be such a sucker, and how she'd finally get what she deserved from him. I quietly set the food down, went back outside, and sat in my car for an hour, trying to process what I'd heard. This woman was planning to defraud her ex, lie to me, and use our child as a meal ticket. I was furious, heartbroken, and frankly, disgusted. When I finally went back inside, Becca was sitting on the couch scrolling through her phone. She looked up with a smile that now seemed sinister rather than sweet. "Hey, I was wondering where you were. Did you bring dinner?" she asked, noticing the takeout bags. "I did," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "But first, I need to ask you something important. Who's the father of your baby?" Her smile faltered for just a second before returning. "What do you mean? You are, obviously. That's interesting, because I just overheard you on the phone explaining how you're going to tell Devin it's his baby so you can collect child support." Her face went through a remarkable series of expressions: shock, fear, anger, and finally, a calculating calm. "You were spying on me? Wow, that's toxic behavior, Jake." She was suddenly on the offensive. "And you clearly misunderstood what I was saying. I was talking to my sister about a show we're watching. It's a plotline about a woman who—" "Stop," I interrupted. "Please don't insult my intelligence on top of everything else. I heard you very clearly." She stared at me for a moment, then her shoulders sagged. "Fine. Yes, I was thinking about telling Devin it's his. So what? That man owes me after how he treated me, and his child support would give this baby everything I never had growing up. Everything you can't provide. It's not like he'd miss the money. Except it's not his child to support. It's fraud, Becca." She rolled her eyes. "It's justice. And honestly, who cares? Rich people screw over the little guy all the time. This is just evening the score." "I care. That's my child you're talking about." "Our child," she corrected. "And don't you want what's best for our baby? Devin could pay for private schools, college, everything. You really want to deprive your kid of that out of some misplaced moral superiority?" I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized I didn't know this woman at all. "I need some time to think," I said finally. "I'm going to stay with my brother tonight." As I packed an overnight bag, Becca's tone changed from defensive to pleading. "Jake, please, I was just exploring options. I wouldn't really do it. Come on, we need to stick together right now." I hesitated, and she must have sensed her opportunity. She took my hand and placed it on her still flat stomach. "This is our baby, our future. Don't throw that away." I'm not proud of what I did next, but in my defense, I was emotionally overwhelmed and not thinking clearly. I looked into her eyes and said, "You're right, I overreacted. It's just a lot to process." She smiled with relief. "I understand. Take the night if you need it, but promise me we'll talk tomorrow with clear heads." "Absolutely. And Becca, I think you're right about Devin. He does owe you. It's a clever plan." Her eyes lit up. "Really? You think so?" I nodded. "We'll discuss details tomorrow." Though I maintained a strategic approach in that moment, I spent that night on my brother's couch alternating between rage and heartbreak. I'd wanted a family, a partner, a life with Becca. Finding out who she really was didn't erase those feelings overnight. But by morning, I reminded myself that my child deserved a father who could handle this situation with integrity. First thing the next day, I called my boss, a family law attorney with 30 years of experience, explaining the situation and asking for advice. She immediately consulted with our firm's ethics committee about the potential conflict of interest, since I would be the client rather than representing myself, and because a different partner would handle my case. They determined it was permissible under state bar rules. Still, my boss documented everything meticulously to avoid any appearance of impropriety. Following my boss's legal advice, I began gathering evidence. I would need more than just an overheard conversation. Then, using the number I'd written down from Becca's phone, I called Devin. When he answered, I introduced myself and said I had some news he might want to hear. He was understandably suspicious, but agreed to meet me for coffee the next day. Devin turned out to be nothing like Becca had described. Yes, he was obviously wealthy. The watch on his wrist probably cost more than my car, but he wasn't some sneering Chad. He was soft-spoken, polite, and seemed genuinely confused about why his ex's new boyfriend wanted to meet. I got straight to the point. "Becca's pregnant." His eyebrows shot up. "Congratulations. I'm not sure why you're telling me this." "Because she's planning to tell you it's yours to get child support." He stared at me, coffee cup frozen halfway to his lips. That's impossible. We haven't been together in almost 2 years." She's claiming it was a one-night hookup from about 8 weeks ago. His face darkened. That's absolutely false. I haven't seen or spoken to Becca since we broke up. I've been dating my current girlfriend for over a year, and I would never cheat on her. Why should I believe you? He asked, eyeing me carefully. You could be setting me up. I showed him screenshots of Becca's ovulation tracking app that I'd taken during my snooping session. I believe you, I assured him. That's why I'm here. The baby is mine, and Becca admitted her plan to me. She doesn't know I'm meeting you. He set down his cup with a shaky hand. I appreciate you telling me this, truly, but why? Aren't you and Becca? Not anymore, I said firmly. I can't be with someone who would do something like this. He nodded slowly. I'm sorry. This must be difficult for you, but what do you want from me? Nothing. I just thought you deserved a warning. And, I hesitated, I could use some advice about how to handle paternity and custody going forward. Devin, as it turns out, had gone through something similar with a previous girlfriend, though not Becca. He introduced me to his lawyer, a terrifying woman named Marion who specialized in paternity fraud cases. She advised me to gather evidence of Becca's plan before confronting her again. Following Marion's advice, I went home and acted as if everything was normal. I told Becca I'd thought about it and agreed her plan made sense. She was thrilled, immediately launching into details about how they'd approach Devin, what they'd ask for, etc. But there's one problem, I said. What if he demands a paternity test? She waved this concern away. He won't. Devin hates confrontation and awkwardness. He'll pay just to avoid the drama. Still, I pressed, shouldn't we have a backup plan? Just in case? She thought for a moment. I suppose we could get a test now with you to confirm the baby's yours. That way, if he somehow grows a spine and demands a test later, I'll already know if we need to get creative with the results. I acted reluctant, but eventually agreed. At 9 weeks pregnant, we went for a non-invasive prenatal paternity test, NIP. The testing facility explained it was the earliest they could reliably perform the test. The procedure was exactly as expected, a blood draw for Becca and a cheek swab for me. We paid $995 out of pocket. I insisted on using my personal credit card rather than my HSA, explaining to Becca that it was to avoid a paper trail, though the real reason was that I knew paternity tests weren't qualified medical expenses for HSA use. Following my boss's advice, I made sure to explicitly ask Becca at the start of each conversation. I'd like to record our discussion about the Devin plan so we can keep our stories straight. Is that okay? She always said yes, giving me the clear consent required under Washington's two-party recording law. I used a high-quality recording app recommended by my law firm for client interviews to ensure there would be no issues with audio clarity or questions about authenticity. When the test results came back after 7 business days confirming I was the father, no surprise there, I forwarded a copy to Devin and Marion. Then I waited, playing the supportive boyfriend, while Becca crafted her approach to Devin. She decided to text him first, keeping it casual. Hey stranger, I know it's been a while, but I need to talk to you about something important. Coffee sometime this week? To her delight, he responded quickly. Sure. How about tomorrow at 2 p.m.? The usual place? She was practically giddy, thinking her plan was working perfectly. She spent that evening planning her outfit and rehearsing what she'd say to him. The next day, Becca went to meet Devin, all dressed up and armed with fake tears and a sob story about a one-night mistake that had resulted in this surprise blessing. I wished her luck and told her I'd have champagne waiting when she got back. As soon as she left, I packed all my essential belongings and important documents. I'd already secured a small studio apartment across town, paid first and last month's rent, and moved most of my things gradually over the previous 2 weeks while Becca was at work, being careful to take only a few items at a time so she wouldn't notice. 3 hours later, my phone exploded with texts and calls from Becca. I let them go to voicemail, but listened to her increasingly frantic messages. Jake, call me back right now. Something went wrong. Devin had a lawyer with him. Why isn't he answering? Devin just sat there with this smug look while his shark of a lawyer played recordings of me talking about the plan. Recordings, Jake. Where did they get those? I know you did this, you backstabbing piece of shit. You're ruining my life. Call me back or I swear to God I'll... The last voicemail cut off mid-threat, which was probably for the best. I finally answered when Devon's lawyer Marion called. She informed me that they had presented Becca with all the evidence, including the paternity test results confirming I was the father. They had offered her a deal: sign a legally binding document admitting to attempted paternity fraud and agreeing to never contact Devon again, or face a lawsuit for defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and attempted fraud. Becca apparently had gone ballistic in the coffee shop, screaming at Devon, the lawyer, and making a scene that ended with her being asked to leave by management. But ultimately, faced with overwhelming evidence and the threat of legal action, she had signed the document. "What happens now?" I asked Marion. "Now," she said, "you need to protect yourself and your parental rights. I can recommend some excellent family law attorneys who can help you establish custody arrangements." When I mentioned I worked for a family law firm, she laughed. "Well, that's convenient. I'm guessing you already know what you need to do then." I did. While I couldn't file for custody of an unborn child, my firm helped me prepare all the paperwork for a paternity action that would be filed immediately after birth. The next day, I filed this action with the court to legally establish myself as the father and begin the process of determining custody arrangements once the child was born. I also filed for a temporary restraining order after Becca showed up at my workplace, causing a scene and making specific threats, including, "I'll make sure you never see this baby," and "I'll destroy your career if it's the last thing I do." Under Washington's Domestic Violence Protection Act, RCW 2650, these specific threats, combined with her showing up at my workplace, despite my clear requests to communicate only through email, were sufficient grounds for the court to grant the order. The following months were a nightmare of legal proceedings, mediation sessions, and increasingly desperate attempts by Becca to either win me back or punish me, depending on her mood that day. She alternated between tearful apologies, "I was just scared about money, I never would have gone through with it," and vicious accusations, "You tricked me and colluded with my ex to humiliate me." During proceedings, Becca had shown troubling behavior beyond the workplace incident, missing court-ordered drug tests, sending threatening messages to both me and Devon, and according to her mandatory psychological evaluation, displaying concerning patterns of impulsivity and dishonesty that could impact parenting judgment. Eventually, with my firm's help, we established a co-parenting plan that would go into effect after the child was born, giving me primary physical custody with Becca having supervised visitation until she completed parenting classes and therapy. The judge specifically cited Becca's documented behavior during proceedings when ordering supervision, making it clear this wasn't punitive but protective. Thanks to my firm's connections and the overwhelming evidence, we were able to expedite proceedings that would normally have dragged on for much longer. Still, family court moves slowly, and this whole saga stretched out over many months. Our daughter was born 4 months ago. She's perfect. Tiny fingers, tiny toes, and absolutely no idea about the drama that preceded her arrival. Becca has actually been sticking to the therapy requirement and seems to be making progress. Her supervised visits are going well, and if things continue this way, we'll likely move to unsupervised visitation soon. As for Devon, he sent a surprisingly thoughtful baby gift, along with a note thanking me for having the integrity to do the right thing. We're not friends, exactly, but we've gotten coffee a couple of times, and he's offered some helpful advice about navigating single parenthood. His own troubled history with paternity issues has made him particularly empathetic to my situation. His girlfriend, now fiancée, is expecting their first child in the spring, so we've had plenty to talk about. I know this story doesn't have the explosive, dramatic ending that makes for the best Reddit posts. No one got publicly humiliated or lost everything. Becca didn't go to jail or flee the country. In real life, these things usually end with quiet legal settlements and custody arrangements that prioritize the welfare of the children involved. But I did learn something valuable from all this. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Becca showed me glimpses of her character early on: the fixation on her ex's wealth, the casual dishonesty about small things, the sense of entitlement. I chose to ignore those red flags, and it nearly cost me my relationship with my daughter. So if you're dating someone who seems a little too interested in their ex's money, or who thinks the rules don't apply to them, or who uses phrases like, "we deserve it" when talking about other people's resources, maybe consider that a preview of coming attractions. Edit. Since so many are asking, yes, I spoke with my boss before taking any action, both for legal advice and to make sure I wasn't jeopardizing my job. The firm was completely supportive, and one of our partners handled my case pro bono, though I still paid all the filing fees and court costs. My workplace was understanding about the time I needed to take off for court appearances and meetings with social workers. 2. To clarify the timeline, the baby is now 4 months old. The confrontation with Becca happened when she was about 8 weeks pregnant, so this whole saga has stretched out over about a year. Family court moves painfully slowly, especially during a pandemic. Edit 3. For those criticizing me for snooping through Becca's phone in the first place, yes, it was wrong. I violated her privacy, and I'm not proud of it. That said, I'm glad I did, because otherwise I might never have known about her plan until it was too late. Sometimes you do the wrong thing for what turns out to be the right reasons. Edit 4. Regarding Becca's future relationships, I actually hope she finds someone who makes her happy. Despite everything, she is my daughter's mother, and my daughter will benefit from having a stable, content mother in her life. The supervised visitation isn't meant as punishment, but as a way to ensure everyone's safety while Becca works through her issues. Final update. My daughter just turned 1, and I felt like I owed you all a quick update. Becca has completed her therapy requirements and parenting classes, and we've transitioned to unsupervised visitation. She's dating someone new, a kindergarten teacher who seems to be a stabilizing influence on her. We're not friends, but we're managing to co-parent civilly. My daughter is walking now, saying a few words, and generally being the light of my life. Devin and his wife had a son who is about 6 months younger than my daughter. They've invited us to a few family-friendly events, which has been nice. Life goes on, and sometimes it even gets better. She texted, "I'm sleeping at my ex's house tonight. You need to prove you're not the insecure type by being okay with it." I replied, "Prove what you need to." Then I called her ex's wife and asked if she knew my fiancé was sleeping over. The three-way conference call she accidentally picked. Look, I'm not proud of how I handled this. Actually, scratch that. I'm absolutely proud of it. But I'm supposed to start these posts with some kind of faux humility, right? So here's the deal. 6 weeks ago, I, 36M, was engaged to Stephanie, 34F, my girlfriend of 2 years. Notice the past tense. We lived together in a decent apartment in Chicago, Illinois, relevant for legal reasons later, split the bills evenly, and generally had what I thought was a solid relationship. I'm an architect specializing in sustainable commercial buildings. She's a digital marketing director at a mid-sized agency. No kids, just a judgy cat named Maurice who has never fully accepted me as his rightful roommate. Stephanie and I met at a friend's housewarming party, bonded over our mutual hatred of IPAs, and had been relatively drama-free for most of our relationship. We got engaged on our 2nd anniversary with plans to marry next summer at a parents' lake house in Wisconsin. Everything was fine. Normal. Boring, even. Until the text. I was away at a 3-day professional conference in Denver. Nothing exciting, just a bunch of architects talking about carbon-neutral building materials and arguing about whether Frank Gehry is a visionary or a menace. It was my 2nd night away, and I was getting ready for bed when my phone buzzed at 11:37 p.m. with a message from Stephanie. "Hey, ran into Jason at the Murphy's tonight. We got to talking, and it's getting late, so I'm just gonna crash at his place instead of Ubering home. You need to prove you're not the insecure type by being okay with this. Love you." For context, Jason is Stephanie's ex from about 4 years ago. They dated for around 3 years before breaking up over lifestyle differences, his words, his inability to hold down a job while playing video games 30 hours a week, her words. I'd met him exactly twice, once at a mutual friend's birthday, where he spent the evening telling anyone who would listen about his cryptocurrency investments, and once when he randomly showed up at our favorite bar, and Stephanie felt obligated to invite him to join us. Both times, he made a point of reminiscing about inside jokes and that crazy weekend in Montreal while looking directly at me. What Stephanie had conveniently left out of her text was that Jason had been married for about a year to a woman named Claire. I only knew this because I'd seen the wedding photos on Instagram when our mutual friend had attended their destination wedding in Mexico. So to recap, my fiancée was crashing at her ex-boyfriend's place, framing it as some kind of test of my security level, and seemingly ignoring the fact that said ex now had a whole wife. I stared at my phone for a solid 5 minutes. My first instinct was to call her immediately and ask what the hell she was thinking. My second instinct was to book the next flight back to Chicago. But then a strange calm washed over me. It was the kind of calm that only comes when you suddenly realize exactly who you're dealing with. I typed back, "Prove what you need to. We'll talk when I'm home tomorrow." Then I did something I'm not particularly proud of, but that I will absolutely never regret. I looked up Jason on social media, found his wife Claire's profile, and from there got her phone number listed on her business page. She's a real estate agent with one of those call me anytime business cell phone numbers prominently displayed. I called her at 9:58 p.m. Mountain Time, 10:58 p.m. her time in Chicago. Being in Colorado, a one-party consent state for call recordings, I wasn't concerned about any legal issues with the call. "Hello," she answered. I later learned she always answered unknown numbers, even late, because as a successful real estate agent, late calls from new clients were how she built her business. "Hi, is this Claire, Jason's wife?" "Yes, who's this?" Understandable suspicion in her voice. "You don't know me, but my name is Alex. I'm engaged to Stephanie Weber. I believe you might know her as Jason's ex-girlfriend?" A pause. "Oh, yes, I know who Stephanie is. I'm really sorry to bother you so late, but I thought you should know that Stephanie just texted me saying she's planning to spend the night at your house with Jason. I wanted to check if that was something you were aware of and comfortable with." The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. "Claire, are you still there?" "I'm here," she said, her voice tight. "And no, I wasn't aware of that arrangement, considering I'm currently visiting my sister in Iowa. Jason told me he was having a guys' night watching the game." "Ah, I see. Again, I'm really sorry to be the one to—" "Don't apologize," she cut me off. "I appreciate the call. Do you mind holding for a moment? I'm going to add Jason to this call so we can sort this out." "Not at all." I could hear muffled movements, and then Claire's voice, slightly distant from the phone. "Hey Siri, call husband." What happened next was better than anything I could have orchestrated. Claire, using her iPhone's three-way calling feature, merged the calls, bringing all three of us into a single conversation. "Just so you know, Alex, I'm adding Jason to our call now," Claire said before Jason picked up, making it clear to everyone that this was now a conference call. "Babe," Jason answered cheerfully. There was music and chatter in the background. "What's up? Thought you were having wine night with your sister." "I am," Claire responded with remarkable composure. "Hey, quick question. Is Stephanie Weber at our apartment right now?" Jason fell silent for a moment. I could practically hear him calculating his options. "What? No. Why would she be here? I'm at Tommy's watching the Bulls game." His voice had a slight nervous edge that hadn't been there when he first answered. At this point, I decided to helpfully chime in. "Hi Jason, it's Alex, Stephanie's fiancé. She texted me about 20 minutes ago saying she was crashing at your place tonight. Just so you know." The background noise on Jason's end suddenly got quieter, as if he'd moved to a more private location. "What the fuck? Who is this?" Jason's voice had dropped to an urgent whisper. "It's Alex. We've met twice. You told me about your Ethereum portfolio both times. And it's Claire, your wife," she added helpfully. "Currently on speaker with Alex, who called to see if I was okay with your ex-girlfriend spending the night at our apartment." "This is some kind of misunderstanding," Jason sputtered. "I ran into Steph at Murphy's. We had like one drink, and she left. I'm at Tommy's with the guys." "Interesting," I said, "because according to her text, she's planning to sleep at your place tonight." "Let me guess," Claire interjected, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Tommy suddenly got a cat named Whiskers that she's allergic to, so they had to relocate the guys' night to our apartment?" and all the guys have mysteriously disappeared except for you and Stephanie? There was a long pause from Jason's end, followed by a defeated sigh. Claire, it's not what you think. Save it, she snapped. Is she there with you right now? Another pause. Yes. Put her on the phone. Some muffled conversation, and then Stephanie's voice came through, sounding confused. Hello? Hi, Steph, it's Alex. I'm on a call with you, Jason, and his wife, Claire. I was just letting Claire know about your sleeping arrangements for tonight, and oddly enough, it seems she wasn't consulted about this houseguest situation. Alex? What the? Stephanie's voice was a mixture of shock and anger. Are you seriously calling to check up on me? This is exactly the kind of insecurity I was talking about. Actually, Claire cut in, he was calling to see if I was aware that my husband's ex-girlfriend was spending the night at our apartment while I'm out of town, which I wasn't. So thank you, Alex, for your consideration. Claire? Stephanie's voice rose an octave. Jason told me you were fine with this. He said you guys have an understanding about staying friends with exes. Our understanding does not extend to sleepovers, Stephanie. At this point, the call devolved into chaos. Jason was trying to explain to Claire that it was all innocent. Stephanie was alternatively yelling at me for checking up on her and attempting to apologize to Claire, and Claire was mostly silent except for the occasional scoff or unfucking believable. I stayed on the line, mostly out of morbid curiosity, until Claire finally said, Jason, I'm getting on a flight back tomorrow morning. Have your stuff packed. Then she hung up. Stephanie called me back immediately. I can't believe you did that, she hissed. You had no right to interfere in my friendship with Jason. Friendship? I echoed. Is that what we're calling it? Nothing was going to happen. I just had too many drinks to drive and didn't want to pay for an Uber. They have these amazing new inventions called female friends, or hotels, or even calling your fiancé to discuss this plan before executing it. But instead, you framed it as a test of my insecurity. Because I knew you'd react like this. You've always been weird about Jason. Stephanie, his wife didn't know you were staying over. Does that not register as a red flag to you? She didn't have a good answer for that. After some more back and forth that went nowhere, she hung up on me. I tried to go back to my conference sessions the next morning, but it was hard to focus on renewable building materials when your relationship is imploding in real time. My phone kept buzzing with increasingly desperate texts from Stephanie. 10:14 a.m. I'm so sorry. You're right, it was inappropriate. Please call me back. I'm at home now. Jason and I really are just friends. Nothing has ever happened. Claire is overreacting. She's always been jealous of me. I made a mistake, but you crossed a line calling her. Are you really throwing away our relationship over one bad judgment call? I didn't respond to any of them. After lunch, I decided to skip the remaining day and a half of the conference and booked an earlier flight back to Chicago. Instead, I called my brother, explained the situation, and asked if I could crash at his place when I got back to Chicago that night. He agreed immediately, adding, I never liked her cat anyway. When I landed, I had a voicemail from Claire, of all people. Hey Alex, it's Claire, Jason's soon-to-be ex-wife. I just wanted to say thank you for the call yesterday. It's not fine, obviously, but I'm glad I know. Anyway, I thought you might want to know that when I got home today, I found some of Stephanie's things in our apartment, an earring on the nightstand and her toiletry bag in our bathroom. So, take that information for what it's worth. I'm sorry you're going through this too. Take care. I picked up my car from the long-term parking, drove to my brother's place, and finally replied to Stephanie with a single text. I'll be by tomorrow at 2 p.m. to pick up my things. Please be out of the apartment during that time. She called immediately. I didn't answer. She called 4 more times. I turned off my phone. The next day, I went to our apartment at exactly 2 p.m. Stephanie was, of course, there, despite my request. Maurice the cat watched judgmentally from the top of the bookshelf as she followed me around, alternating between apologies, explanations, and accusations. It's not what you think. We were just catching up. Nothing happened. If you really loved me, you'd forgive one mistake. I can't believe you called his wife. That's a violation of my privacy. You've never trusted me around Jason. Are you really this insecure? I packed methodically, focusing on getting all my important documents, irreplaceable items, and enough clothes to get by. The whole time, I said almost nothing, which seemed to frustrate her more than anything I could have said. Maurice continued to observe the proceedings with his usual feline disdain, occasionally yawning as if our human drama bored him. Finally, as I was about to leave, she blocked the door. You can't just throw away 2 years over one misunderstanding. I was drunk, I made a bad decision, but I love you. I looked her straight in the eye. Stephanie, you texted me your plan to stay at another man's house. You framed it as a test of my insecurity. You didn't mention his wife wasn't home. And according to her, this wasn't the first time you'd been there. So, I have to ask, what exactly am I misunderstanding? She didn't have a good answer for that. I left my key on the counter, gave Maurice a final scratch behind the ears, which he tolerated magnanimously, and walked out. The aftermath was pretty much what you'd expect. Mutual friends choosing sides, awkward explanations to family about why the wedding was off. Stephanie cycling through various narratives. I was controlling, I was insecure, I overreacted, I humiliated her. She was just going through some personal issues and made one mistake, etc. 2 weeks later, I was having drinks with my friend Mike, who had been at Murphy's the night of the text. According to Mike, Stephanie and Jason had been meeting there regularly for at least a month, always sitting in a back corner booth in the downstairs section where they thought none of our friends would notice them. He hadn't thought much of it. After all, exes can be friends, until I told him what happened. Man, I'm sorry, he said. If I'd known, I would have said something. Not your fault, I assured him. Some red flags you just don't want to see. 3 months later, I was mostly moved on. I'd found a new apartment, thrown myself into work, and had even gone on a few casual dates. Nothing serious, but it was nice to be reminded that there were normal, honest people out there. Breaking our lease had required giving 60 days notice and paying a 2-month penalty fee, but my mental health was worth more than the $3,600 it cost me to get out of there. Then came the email. From Claire Johnson. Subject, thought you might want to see this. Body. No pressure to respond, just thought you deserved to know the truth. Attached was a screenshot of a text conversation between Jason and Stephanie from 5 months ago, well before the text, when we were still happily engaged. Claire had discovered these messages when going through their jointly owned iPad during court-mandated disclosure of financial information as part of their divorce proceedings. Jason, still on for tomorrow night? C is at her mom's all weekend. Definitely. A's at that boring work dinner, so I'm all yours. Same arrangement as last time? Perfect. Don't forget to bring that thing we talked about. Already packed. Can't wait. Claire had added a note at the bottom. Found these while going through Jason's old iPad during divorce proceedings. There are more, going back almost a year. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but I thought you should know you didn't overreact. Hope you're doing better than I am. I sat staring at that email for a long time. Part of me was devastated to have confirmed that the relationship I thought was solid had been a lie for much longer than I realized. But another part of me felt an odd sense of relief. I hadn't been crazy, I hadn't overreacted, and I had dodged a bullet. I wrote back a simple response. Thank you for sharing this. I hope you're finding your way forward. You deserve better too. 2 days later, Claire responded with an invitation to get coffee. No romantic intentions, she clarified. Just thought it might be nice to talk to someone who understands the specific hell we've both been through. We met at a small cafe downtown. What was supposed to be a quick coffee turned into a 3-hour conversation. Claire was funny, insightful, and refreshingly direct. All qualities I now realized Stephanie had lacked. We shared war stories about the aftermath, compared the ridiculous excuses Jason and Stephanie had made, and actually laughed more than I had in months. We didn't exchange numbers afterward. It was too soon for both of us, and there was something too symmetrical, too neat about the wronged fiancé and the wronged wife finding comfort with each other. Life isn't a romantic comedy after all. But a month later, I ran into Claire at a bookstore. Then again at a farmer's market. By the third coincidence, We admitted we were frequenting each other's regular spots, hoping to bump into each other, and finally exchanged numbers properly. We've been dating for 2 months now, though dating might be too strong a word for the first several weeks, which consisted mainly of cautious coffee meetings, where we talked through our experiences with therapists' voices in our heads, warning us about trauma bonding. Both of us are still healing, still cautious, but there's something powerful about being with someone who has seen exactly how you can be hurt and chooses to be careful with you anyway. Last week, Stephanie texted me out of the blue. "Heard you're dating Claire now. Isn't that a little pathetic? The sad betrayed couple finding solace together? Guess you're not as evolved as you thought." I showed the text to Claire. She laughed and suggested a response. I typed exactly what she dictated. Actually, we bonded over our mutual excellent taste and subsequent poor judgment. But we're working on the judgment part. Hope you and Jason are happy together. Stephanie's response came immediately. "We're not together. He's dating some 22-year-old yoga instructor." Claire and I decided not to respond to that one. Instead, we ordered takeout, opened a bottle of wine, and toasted to the strange ways life can lead you exactly where you need to be, even if the route is painful. Maurice the cat still hates me, though. Some things never change. He's still with Stephanie, and despite some suggestions from Reddit strangers to orchestrate an elaborate catnapping, I'm not about to start a pet custody battle. He's microchipped in her name anyway, and honestly, they deserve each other. He always did prefer her. TLDR, fiancé said she was spending the night at her ex's place to test if I was the insecure type. I called the ex's wife to see if she knew about this arrangement. She didn't. Wife conference called the husband, chaos ensued, relationships imploded. Turns out, fiancé and ex had been having an affair for months. The wife and I are now cautiously dating each other. Karma works in mysterious ways. Edit. For those asking if this is fake, because who would be stupid enough to text their fiancé they're staying at an ex's house? You'd be surprised what people think they can get away with when they've been successfully lying for months. She thought I was the cool, trusting fiancé who would just accept her explanation without question. After all, I had before. Edit 2. Wow. Didn't expect this to blow up. For those asking for wedding relationship money details, we hadn't put down many non-refundable deposits yet, thankfully. The ring was my grandmother's, so no loss there. The biggest cost was breaking the lease, as I mentioned above. Edit 3. Yes, Maurice is still with Stephanie. No, I can't steal him, even though some of you have suggested elaborate catnapping schemes. He's microchipped, and honestly, they deserve each other. He always did prefer her.